fast and reckless look identical from the outside. Same aggressive position sizing, same quick decisions, same rapid account movement, but one builds wealth, the other destroys it. The difference? It's not in what you do, it's in what you're not doing. The traders who scale tiny accounts fastest aren't taking more risks. They're avoiding 3 specific traps that slow traders trigger without knowing it. And here's the twist. Everything you've been taught about being careful with a small account is actually the very thing keeping it small. I'm about to show you how to move fast without being reckless, and why that distinction will change everything. Look, I need to be straight with you right from the start. You're stuck in a psychological trap that has nothing to do with how much capital you have and everything to do with how you're thinking about your small account. You've been told to preserve capital, risk only 1%, be patient. And that's great advice. Beautiful advice, actually. If you have $100,000, if you have $50,000, if you already have wealth and you're trying to protect it, but you don't have that, you have $2,000, maybe $5,000, maybe $800, and you're trying to trade that tiny account like it's $200,000. You're operating from a framework designed for wealth preservation when what you actually need is wealth creation. And those are completely different games with completely different rules. The pain isn't that you don't know what to do. You've read the books, you've watched the videos, you understand risk management, position sizing, all of it. The pain is that you're trying to apply rules that were written for someone else's situation, someone who already made it, someone who's protecting what they have instead of building what they don't. And every single day you follow that advice, you stay small, you stay stuck. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're playing the wrong game entirely. So what you're about to receive in this video is relief. Relief from the paralysis. These 3 strategies I'm going to share with you aren't about taking crazy risks or gambling. They're not about hoping and praying and crossing your fingers. They're about understanding what tiny accounts can do that big accounts can't, and exploiting that edge intelligently. You're going to see why conventional risk management advice is designed for people who already have money, not people trying to make it. You're going to understand the psychological shift from protection mode to creation mode. And you're going to walk away with 3 specific, actionable approaches that let you scale fast without the stomach-churning terror of reckless gambling. Because here's the myth we're destroying today, that fast growth and intelligent trading are opposites, that you have to choose between being smart and being aggressive. That's a false choice. Speed and intelligence can coexist, but only if you understand which rules apply to your situation and which rules were written for someone else's game. This isn't about ignoring risk. It's about understanding that risk tolerance, risk capacity, and risk necessity are 3 entirely different things. And tiny accounts operate in a dimension where all 3 align in your favor if you know how to see it. So let me tell you a story. Let me tell you about someone who started with $800. Not $8,000, not even $1,000, $800. Most traders would look at that amount and think, that's not even worth trading. I'll just save until I have more. I'll wait until I have real capital. But this trader understood something crucial. He knew that $800 wasn't his constraint. His psychology was his constraint. His beliefs about what was possible, his fear of losing what little he had. That was the real limitation. So he made a decision. He said, I'm going to treat this like it's training capital, not trading capital. He gave himself 6 months and one goal, not to turn $800 into $10,000, not to get rich, just to prove he could execute 3 specific setups flawlessly under real pressure, real money, real consequences. He traded micro contracts. He risked what felt like real money to him, $50, $80 per trade, and he lost a lot. Within 2 months, he was down to $400, half his account gone. Now, most traders at this point would quit. They'd say, see, I told you $800 wasn't enough. I told you I should have waited. But here's what happened instead. He learned faster in those 2 months than most traders learn in 2 years. Why? Because he had permission to be wrong. He wasn't protecting a fortune. He wasn't guarding his life savings. He was building competence. Every loss taught him something. Every mistake became data. He wasn't emotionally destroyed by being wrong, because being wrong was part of the plan. The plan wasn't to never lose. The plan was to learn to trade under fire. By month 4, something clicked. His execution became clean. His emotions stabilized. Not because he was winning every trade, but because he'd trained himself to execute regardless of outcome. He built the account back to 800, then to 1,200. By month 6, he had $2,100. Not life-changing money, not quit-your-job money, but life-changing psychology. He'd proven something to himself that couldn't be taken away. He could execute under fire. He could manage his emotions. He could follow a plan when money was on the line. And with that proof, he added another $3,000 of saved capital. But this time, he wasn't a beginner protecting his savings. He wasn't scared. He wasn't tentative. He was a competent trader deploying capital. Within a year, he was trading a $25,000 account. The $800 wasn't the constraint. His belief about what $800 could do was the constraint. His belief that he needed to protect it instead of use it. That's what kept him stuck before he made the shift. Let me give you another way to see this. Imagine 2 people stranded on an island. One person finds a book of matches, 10 matches total. The other person finds a flint and steel. Now, the person with matches is terrified of wasting them. They won't light a fire to cook food because they might need the matches later. They won't signal for help because they only have 10 chances. They conserve so carefully that they eventually die with 8 matches left. They died protecting their resources. The person with flint and steel? They fail 50 times trying to start a fire. They waste effort. They look incompetent. They strike that flint over and over, and nothing happens. But on the 51st try, they create fire. And once they know how to make fire, they have unlimited fire forever. The knowledge is permanent, the skill is transferable. They learned the principle, not just the tactic. Most traders with small accounts are the person with matches. They're so afraid of wasting their capital that they never actually learn to trade. They take one setup per week because they're being careful. They risk so little that wins and losses both feel meaningless. There's no emotional weight, no learning, no growth. They're conserving, protecting, guarding, and learning nothing. They're dying with 8 matches left. Small accounts aren't matches. They're flint and steel. They're learning tools, they're training grounds, and if you never strike them, if you never use them, you never learn to make fire. The paradox is this: the faster you're willing to use a small account for legitimate learning, the faster you'll build the skill to never waste another dollar again. But you have to be willing to strike the flint. You have to be willing to look incompetent for a while. You have to be willing to fail in service of learning instead of succeeding at protecting nothing. So, if small accounts aren't about conservation, what are they actually about? What are these 3 strategies that let you scale fast without being reckless? Let me break them down for you because some of this is going to feel uncomfortable if you've been trained to think like a wealth preserver instead of a wealth creator. Strategy 1: asymmetric setups over consistency. Here's what I mean. With a tiny account, stop trying to be consistent. Stop trying to win 60% of the time. Stop optimizing for steady, reliable returns. Instead, hunt for asymmetric setups. Trades where you risk $1 to make 5, 10, even 20. You only need to be right 20% of the time. Let that sink in. You can be wrong 8 times out of 10 and still be massively profitable if your winners are big enough. Why does this matter? Because with a small account, consistency is expensive. Every trade costs you commissions, spreads, emotional energy, time. If you take 100 trades to make $500, you've spent massive energy for minimal gain. But if you take 10 trades and one of them pays 10 to 1, you've made the same $500 with 90% less effort and 90% less exposure to the market. You've used your capital efficiently, you've used your emotional energy efficiently, you've leveraged the math instead of fighting it. But here's the psychological shift, and this is where most traders can't make the leap. You must become okay with being wrong most of the time. This terrifies traders because we're wired to seek validation through win rate. We want to be right. We want to prove we know what we're doing. We check our win rate like it's a report card, and if it drops below 50%, we feel like failures. But validation doesn't grow accounts. Math grows accounts. One 10-to-1 winner erases 9 losers, and you're still profitable. That's not luck. That's math. That's how asymmetric risk-reward works. This requires you to stop measuring yourself by how often you're right and start measuring yourself by whether your risk-reward ratios are genuinely asymmetric. And here's the trap. Most traders say they're hunting asymmetric setups, but they're still exiting at 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 because they can't tolerate holding through the discomfort. They see their trade go to 3 times their risk and they take it because they're terrified it'll come back. They can't handle the emotional discomfort of watching a winner potentially turn into a loser. So they take profits early, over and over, and they never capture the big winners that make asymmetric trading work. Real asymmetric trading means holding through the urge to take profits early. It means being wrong 7, 8, 9 times in a row and trusting the math. It means having your account draw down because you're taking losses while you wait for the big winner, and not panicking, not changing your approach, not abandoning the strategy right before it pays off. That's strategy 1. Asymmetric setups over consistency. You're hunting big game, not collecting small game. And big game hunting requires patience, persistence, and the emotional tolerance to miss most of your shots. Strategy 2, concentration over diversification. Here's where I'm going to really push against conventional wisdom. Stop diversifying. I know, every book tells you to diversify, spread risk, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And that's great advice if you have eggs to spare. But with a tiny account, diversification is suicide. When you have $2,000 and you're trying to trade 5 different setups across 3 different markets, you're spreading your learning so thin that you never master anything. You're spreading your capital so thin that even when you're right, you barely profit. You're a generalist in a game that rewards specialists. Instead, concentrate. Pick one setup, one market, one time frame. Become the world's expert on that one thing. Trade it 50 times, 100 times. Learn every nuance, every failure mode, every context where it works and doesn't work. See it in all its variations. Concentration has a compound effect. The more times you see the same setup, the faster you recognize when it's genuine versus when it's a trap. Your execution speed increases because you're not figuring out what to do. You already know. Your confidence increases because you've seen this exact situation 20 times before. Your edge compounds because you're not starting from scratch every trade. You're building on accumulated pattern recognition. With a small account, you can't afford to be a generalist. You don't have the capital to trade everything. You don't have the time to master everything. You must be a specialist. You must know one thing better than 95% of traders know anything. And specialization is how you gain an edge that produces the asymmetric returns from strategy 1. Because when you know your setup deeply, intimately, you know which occurrences are the high probability, high reward ones. You know when to strike with full conviction and when to pass even though it looks good on the surface. Most traders are afraid of concentration because they think they'll miss opportunities. They see a great setup in a market they don't trade, and they feel FOMO, fear of missing out. But every opportunity you chase outside your specialty is a distraction from mastering your specialty. It's a leak in your learning. It's you telling yourself you don't trust your edge, so you need to find edges everywhere. That's scarcity thinking. Abundance thinking says, I have one edge I trust completely, and I will wait patiently for it to appear, and when it does, I will execute with full conviction. Strategy 3, velocity over volume. This is the most misunderstood principle. Trade less, but move faster when you trade. Most small account traders make 2 mistakes. Either they overtrade, trying to force opportunities because they're desperate for growth, or they undertrade, being so conservative they take one trade per month and wonder why nothing's happening. Both are wrong. Both are missing the point. What you want is velocity, the ability to capitalize fully and quickly when genuine opportunity appears, then do nothing the rest of the time. This requires a complete reframe of what active trading means. It doesn't mean you're always in a trade. It doesn't mean you're taking action every day. It means you're always ready to act when the conditions align, and you do nothing when they don't. Think of it like a cheetah. A cheetah doesn't chase every animal it sees. It watches. It waits. It does nothing for hours, sometimes days. It conserves energy. But when the perfect target appears, the perfect conditions, it explodes into action with 100% commitment. It doesn't hesitate. It doesn't second guess. It doesn't scale in tentatively. It strikes with everything it has. That's velocity. Most traders are house cats. They're active all the time, pawing at everything, curious about everything, but never actually committing with full force. They're in and out of trades, scratching at the market, generating commissions and emotional wear without ever really capitalizing on anything significant. Velocity means you might take 0 trades this week. You might take 1 trade this month. But when your one setup appears, you don't hesitate. You don't tell yourself you'll wait for the next one. You don't scale in with half conviction. You strike with full force within your risk parameters. You go all in on that one moment that your preparation has been building toward. This is how small accounts grow fast, not through constant action, but through decisive action when it matters. Not through doing more, but through doing exactly the right thing at exactly the right time and nothing the rest of the time. It's about energy efficiency. It's about recognizing that most moments in the market don't matter, but some moments matter enormously. And your entire job is to be ready for those moments and invisible the rest of the time. Now, these 3 strategies aren't separate. They're a system. They work together. Asymmetric setups give you the math. They give you the framework that says you can be wrong most of the time and still win. Concentration gives you the edge. It gives you the pattern recognition and confidence to identify which setups within your specialty are truly high probability. And velocity gives you the timing. It gives you the discipline to wait for those perfect moments and the conviction to act decisively when they arrive. Together, they create a framework where you can scale fast because you're not wasting energy on trades that don't matter. You're not diluting your learning across too many setups. You're not sitting on your hands when genuine opportunity presents itself. This is how you move from 1,000 to 10,000 in months instead of years. Not through gambling, not through hoping you get lucky, through intelligent aggression focused on the few moments that actually move accounts. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds good in theory, Mark, but how do I actually implement this? What does this look like on Monday morning when I'm staring at my charts? Let me give you the practical steps. Practice 1. The single setup commitment. Right now, today, before you do anything else, choose your one setup. Not 5, not 3, 1. Write down exactly what it looks like. The market context, the entry trigger, where you place your stop, what your target is, and it needs to be minimum 5-to-1 risk reward. Commit to trading only this setup for the next 60 days. Every other pattern, every other opportunity you see, ignore it. Let it go. This isn't about missing out. This is about building concentrated expertise. And I know this feels limiting. I know it feels like you're putting blinders on. But at the end of 60 days, you'll know more about this one setup than 95% of traders know about anything. You'll see variations other traders miss. You'll recognize when it's genuine and when it's a trap. That knowledge is your edge. That's what's going to grow your account, not knowing a little bit about a lot of things. Practice 2, the conviction scale. Before every trade, rate your conviction from 1 to 10. If it's below 8, don't trade. Simple rule. Why? Because with strategy 3, velocity, you're not trying to take every marginally acceptable trade. You're not trying to stay busy. You're waiting for the trades that feel obvious, where all your criteria align perfectly, where you see your setup in its purest, highest probability form. A conviction 6 trade might work. It might be profitable, but it's not the trade you build an account on. It's not the trade worth your emotional energy and your capital risk. A conviction 9 or 10 trade, that's where you strike with full position size within your risk parameters. That's where you commit fully. This practice forces you to become selective, to wait for genuine quality, and to act decisively when you find it. It eliminates the mediocre middle where most traders waste their time and energy. Practice 3, the loss acceptance ritual. After every losing trade, and you're going to have a lot of them if you're doing this right, immediately write one sentence. That loss brought me closer to my winner. Because with asymmetric trading, strategy 1, losses aren't failures. They're not evidence that you're doing something wrong. They're the cost of finding the big winner. They're expected, they're normal, they're part of the process. You must rewire your emotional response to losses. If you're hunting 10-to-1 setups, you're going to be wrong 80% of the time. Those losses must feel neutral, even welcomed, because they're moving you through the statistical distribution toward the inevitable winner. This ritual interrupts the shame spiral that makes traders abandon asymmetric setups right before they hit. It keeps you in the game psychologically, so you're still there when the math pays off. Because the math will pay off if you stay in the game long enough. But most traders quit 3 losses before the winner appears. And those are your 3 strategies. Asymmetric setups. Concentration, velocity, not gambles, not shortcuts, not hoping you get lucky. Intelligent frameworks designed specifically for the constraints and advantages of a tiny account. Let me bring this home for you. You came here thinking you needed to find a way to scale your tiny account safely, slowly, conservatively. And what I've shown you is that safety and speed aren't opposites when you understand what game you're actually playing. A small account isn't a large account that's broken. It's not a handicap you need to overcome. It's a completely different instrument with completely different rules and completely different opportunities. Strategy 1, asymmetric setups, frees you from the trap of needing to be right all the time. You can be wrong 80% of the time and still scale fast if your winners are big enough. Strategy 2, concentration, frees you from the illusion that you need to know everything and trade everything. You need to know one thing better than everyone else. Strategy 3, velocity, frees you from the false choice between overtrading and undertrading. You wait with patience, then strike with conviction. These aren't hacks, these aren't shortcuts. These are strategic frameworks that align perfectly with the unique advantages small accounts have. Freedom from outside pressure, nobody's watching, nobody's judging. Ability to be psychologically aggressive without gambling capital you can't afford to lose. And the capacity to learn fast because every trade represents meaningful risk to you. It's real. It matters. You're not numb to $100 swings when you have an $800 account. That emotional engagement, managed correctly, accelerates learning. You're not handicapped by having a small account. You're equipped differently. And if you can see that difference, if you can embrace it instead of resenting it, you can exploit it. You can move faster than traders with big accounts because you're not protecting a fortune. You can learn faster because you're not insulated from consequences. You can take intelligent risks because you understand that the risk of staying small forever is greater than the risk of losing your small account in service of legitimate learning. Here's what I want you to remember. Write this down. My small account is not a handicap I need to overcome. It's a training ground I need to leverage. I am not here to preserve what I have. I am here to build what I don't. I don't need to be right most of the time. I need to be positioned correctly when it matters. I am not a guardian of capital. I am a creator of competence. And competence, once built, creates capital forever. That's your reframe. That's the shift that lets you move fast without being reckless. You're not protecting matches. You're learning to make fire. And once you know how to make fire, once you've built the skill, once you've proven to yourself that you can execute under pressure, you'll never be cold again. The skill is permanent. The knowledge transfers. The psychology is the asset, not the account balance. If this landed differently than every other small account video you've watched, if you felt something shift in how you're thinking about your situation, I want you to tell me in the comments. What's the one setup you're going to concentrate on? What's the belief about small accounts you're ready to release? What's the match you're finally willing to strike? Your story matters. Your journey matters. And when you share it, you help someone else who's stuck in the same place you were 10 minutes ago. You give them permission to see things differently. And if you want more of this real psychology, real strategy, real reframes that actually change how you see trading, subscribe. Not because I need the numbers, because you need the reminders. This content is about one thing: helping you see possibilities you didn't know existed, helping you understand that the constraints you think you have might actually be advantages you haven't learned to use yet. I'll be here, every video, offering you a different lens. And maybe one of these lenses will be the one that changes everything for you. You don't need a big account to become a great trader. You need a small account and the willingness to use it correctly. You have one of those already. Now go build the other. See you in the next one.